are doing another 3-yard quilt, and this time we're working with Baubles, which is the first pattern that is in the, what's it called, Make It Christmas? In the, yes, Make It Christmas, the newest 3-yard quilt book. And again, we are doing the Bauble pattern, and for this pattern I have chosen this for my fabric number 1, which is the Fairy Dust by Tula Pink. Here is the white, I think this is called Fairy Dust 2 also. I know it comes in white and in black. And so this is going to be our fabric number 2. And this guy here is going to be our fabric number 3. I think this fabric is so pretty, guys. The way that it just gradiates and the color story, absolutely gorgeous. Let's see what happens when we turn this very bauble pattern into my Willy Wonka quilt. I am so excited about this one. I've got a couple of quilts that I've just, this summer, that have just tickled me with these 3-yard quilts. So, as usual, I can't give you guys the pattern, the actual sizes, but I'm going to show you what everything looks like once it's all cut out. And again, we're starting with this color, which is going to be my fabric number 1. So excited to cut this out. You guys, I can't wait to see where everything lands. Oh, such a cutie patootie. Let's do it. What all the colors look like all laid out. They look beautiful. I think this has just inspired a whole different project just because of how gorgeous it looks. These are all the pieces. This was the fastest quilt to cut out. I mean, it didn't take me any time to do this at all. Just super duper easy and fun, and what a great quilt. I'm just tickled by this. I don't know why. This one is really just giving me all the feels. So I'm going to assume that my first step is to take these 3 strips here and piece them together. I'm going to just make that assumption because we are getting ready to make a what? A 4-patch. You know your girl loves a 4-patch. I don't know why. I just do. It just loves me a 4-patch. So I'm thinking we are going to sew this together with this. I'm going to check the directions and make sure that's what I'm supposed to be doing, but it feels right. So yes, I was absolutely right. We are going to make these into strip assemblies. So I'm just going to unfold this. I'm going to give these another press. I did not do a great job ironing these out, but when do I ever really? And we're going to sew these together on the long side. All right, so now that we have sewn these together, now I'm going to subcut these into a bunch of smaller sections so that I can make my 4-patch. But it's a rectangle 4-patch, so like, is it really still a 4-patch? I think it is. It's 4 blocks, so I'm going to freshen up this edge. And I've pressed them all going toward one side. She says to always press stuff open. I've gone ahead and just pressed it toward the purple, which is fabric A. And I think I should have success with that. I don't think it's going to be too bad. I'm going to look at the pattern in a second just to be sure. Okay, yeah, we're going to be fine with all of them pressed toward this, this strip right here. And this is a tossed fabric, so I don't care which direction it goes. It could go this way, it could go that way. We got birds with their little wings this way, this way, this way. We're good. So now I'm just going to cut this a gazillion times and get what I need. And then we are going to assemble it and make it awesome. I can't wait to see this as a fort. This is going to be such a whimsical quilt. It might be one of my favorites. Okay, this is my absolute favorite part of showing you guys stuff, is when we come across lessons, and I learned so many. For patch, when it is a rectangle, so this is going to be a rectangle, they're not squares. This is how I'm going to sew all of them together. And you're probably saying, Mac, it's just 4, it doesn't matter. So if I sew it this way, and the blue is in the upper left, it needs to stay there, because if you do this, this is a different quilt. The pattern requires you to have this as a patch, not this. When you rotate this, you have the pink up here, like this, and it just does not, for this particular pattern, it's not such a big deal. But I want you to know that this is definitely a different quilt depending upon how you sew it together. So all of mine are going to be sewn with the blue in the top left and the bottom right. I'm going to make sure to do that because, again, this is not the same. If you put this next to this, which we're not doing in this particular quilt, it changes the pattern. So then if you're like, oh, just rotate it. Nope. It stays the same. And I just want you guys to know that can happen. I was working on a pattern where it changed the way that I was doing it. For instance, let's just look at something really quickly. Let's say that these colors were where they were variated or something, and I wanted them all to look different coming down this angle, and they weren't all the same. That is going to be an issue for me. Because they would be, this one would have the blue and this one would have the pink. It would just be a different pattern. So for this one, I want to be sure to do it the way that the pattern calls for it, because in this corner is the blue and it touches the blue border. So this is a little thing. It's not a huge deal, but I just want you guys to be sure to sew every single one exactly the same if you want your pattern to come out like, it was intended. So of course I'm just going to stack them all with the blues going one direction and the purples going the other. Oh, get it right. There we go. And I'm going to nest these because the purple is all pointed toward the purple. We're good. Not an issue. Not an issue. Perfect. I'm going to use pins because I'm a pinner, and I'm just going to put 2 pins in it in the center and at the bottom. So I'm making sure that the blue is at the top, purple's at the bottom, purple's here, and you got to make sure you sew the right side, because if you don't, your quilt will not be the same. And then I like to just pin the very bottom. I don't know why, I just do. All right, that's one set, and I will just sew that down on the right hand side, and we'll be cooking with gas. Well, that went by incredibly quickly. I mean incredibly. I pinned them all and then I just stood at the machine and it went by so fast. I know that the next part that's coming up will not be fast. I know it won't, but boy was this part, I mean, just cutting this quilt out, and now I've got 13 blocks that are ready to go. So now I'm just going to press these guys open and see, and just see where we are. So I'm just going to hit this just a bit, and then I'm going to open it up. Oh, look. All right, that looks beautiful in every way. Boy, this is pretty. This mint and this lavender together just makes me want to scream. I just love it. And I am not a pastels kind of gal, but These pastels with these beautiful jewel tones running through. It's kind of my jam. All right, so I'm going to do this with the rest of the blocks, and then we'll go on to the next block. Okay, so now we're getting into the more involved block. And we're going to work on this little area right here with the stem, with the hanging part of the bauble, the ribbon that's hanging. You're going to take your fabric number 2 and your fabric number 1 and your fabric number 3, and you're going to just sew it between the strips of your background. So I'm just going to sew this down in strips. We're just going to sew this in between this and this in between that, and then we'll subcut that strip. I don't know where I'm going to press this. I might press it to the center since this is white fabric and I don't want any ghosting. We'll see. So I have sewn this middle strip to 1, and I think I'm going to go on ahead and press it before I sew the other one down. I think that's just going to be a better way to manage this. So I gave it a little press, and now I'm just going to take this and put this right sides together and run it down the side, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the purple. So for these strips, I have a lot left over, which sometimes freaks me out, so don't you guys get freaked out, because I read the pattern, then reread it, and that's just how much I have left over. It's like half of the strip. So I have 6 of this unit here, and I have 6 of this guy in blue. And now it's time to make the snowball portion of the block. Okay, so for the snowball portion, let's get one that's been pressed pretty good. This one looks good. You're going to take one of these little squares, and you're going to put it in the corner, right sides together. Now this is kind of hard to tell, but there is a right side to this fabric. And then you're just going to sew a diagonal line from here to here. I'm not going to use any pins, and I'm just going to use the lines on my sewing machine tape. That tape that I use, I'm going to use that to guide it. Let's see if that works. This quilt is coming together so much faster than I ever anticipated. I mean, it's just coming together. So I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm doing here. This is a leader, so it's just a piece of fabric that's folded up. Nothing special about it. It's just a scrap piece of fabric, and I'm going to start sewing on this and then sewing off onto this square here. The reason why I'm doing that is because trying to jump into the edge of this triangle sometimes will, even though I have a single needle plate, it gets a little funky. So I'm just going to hit the button and sew right, and then I'm just going to slip this under with it and make sure that this is all lined up. Now I'm going to ride the red here, which is center, and this is the tape that I use. I forget what this tape is called, but I think I have it listed in the description. And we're just going to ride that puppy. And I have it that goes all the way up pretty far. And then I just keep sewing a bit. And then I'm going to grab another one, and I'm going to chain piece these. So I'm grabbing another purple square and another white piece of fabric, making sure it's right sides together, which is a little difficult to tell on this. And I'm going to grab another one and just be sure that it's lined up nice and even in that corner. And it is. And I'm just going to slide it up to the foot, making sure that this is sitting on that red. And I'm just going to sew. There we go. Keeping this, this is where I'm looking right here. I'm just keeping that corner on the red the whole way. And I'm hitting that corner. Let's grab another one. Let's do it again. And I'm just going to keep doing this for all of this corner And then I'm going to turn it and do it to the other corner. And I will have sewn 24 snowballs before I even know what hit me. And they're all connected. Lovely. Okay, so I have these all together, and I'm gonna just take this guy off right here because I need to keep sewing onto this little scrap piece. And I'm gonna undo this. Love this tool. It comes in handy when I am chain piecing. And it just goes together, and I'm just going to be careful because there is a blade inside there, and it's just an old blade. And we are just going to, I guess I could have put it so that it's directly up. There we go. And we are just going to cut this apart very quickly because they have been chain pieced. I like chain piecing. All right, so now I'm going to stack these up and do the same thing to the other side. So much fun. I could cut these off right now, but I'll do it later. I'll do it in a minute. And I've done these already. So we're gonna just, it was fun. I'm so tickled by this pattern. It's just gorgeous. Who would have thunk it in a Christmas book? All right, I'm gonna put these all together and then start on the next side. And the next time I come back, you guys will see that all of these sides have this snowball on the corner. So now they are all snowballed. And I am going to take my ruler. This is a Creative Grids ruler. It's got that nice sandpaper that's marked right. It marks the 1/4 inch so easily. It's just so clear. And somebody is going to take those and make itty bitty little half square triangles with them. So I'm just going to go around all the corners. Okay, and now let's press it back. So I'm just flipping these back after cutting them. I wish that I was not, I wish I was putting them the other direction. I would love for the white, I would love for it to be this way, but I'm just too lazy to do that. You can see that I've already pieced it with black thread. I mean, come on. But there'll be so much happening with these. I don't think we're gonna have to worry about the ghosting showing behind it. I mean, it's white on white. It's not that big of a deal, but and I want these to lay as flat as possible, so I'm gonna hit them with a clapper. My clappers are awesome. I love them. I made these. They look like me, and I was thinking about producing these because they're awesome and they're square, which makes way more sense than those narrow clappers. Narrow clappers are just not smart in my opinion. And this is gonna lay super duper duper flat. Look, super. When I say super flat, I mean super flat. Love these. All right, so we are going to do this entire stack, and I will check back with you guys after I'm done. So now we're going to take these two, and we're going to place these with this, and these with this, and we are going to sew one side to the other. Nice and simple, making bubbles or in my case, lollipops. And I'm just going to sew down the side. Not going to take me long at all. So these are the last ones. This quilt is coming together so fast. I keep saying it, but I'm just getting more and more shocked by the completion of this guy. All right, last one. Okay, I am not going to, how am I going to do this? I think I'm going to press these open. Yeah, I think I am going to press these open. I could press it this way, but I don't think so. I don't think so. Now we're going to press these guys open. Yep, open it is. I'm just going to hold it here for a few seconds. Yep, definitely open is the best idea for that there. And I'm going to do that to the rest of these. I'm actually going to pick this up tomorrow morning. But this went really nicely. Look at that. Isn't it a cutie patootie? Let's do another color. Oh, shoot. I hate when I do that. This is why you should just drop it up and pick it up and go down. Pick it up, go down. There we go. Okay. Hate that I didn't use the proper color thread, which should have been like a super light neutral. I don't know why I did that. All right, here we go. So this is what it should look like if I were using them as baubles, but I'm so not. They're so lollipops. And so we're gonna flip them like this. So cute. I love the way these different colors are showing up. They're so cute. All right, tomorrow morning we'll finish this and keep going. So if I were doing this, it should be the same color on the same row, but maybe I'll do different colors. I don't know. We'll see. But it's gonna look something like that. Such cutie patooties. We shall see. So our next step here is to take these blocks that have been sewn together and take our smaller strips and sew them on either side. And so you just take one of these full strips, put it right sides together, and be sure to put your strip on your sewing machine. You don't want to mess with all these seams if you don't have to. And we'll just sew down one side, cut it even, and then sew it down the other. And that will be the next step. And then the last step for the assembly of these blocks will be to do the same thing. Press these two strips open and then sew down this side. The side with the bobble on it. So I've sewn down this side, and yes, I do still have it in black thread. I know you guys are sick of hearing me even talk about it because that was just a poor decision, but luckily I haven't had it mess with me so badly. And since my accents are going to be black, I'm like, whatever, it's done now. But the minute that this bobbin runs out, I swear I'm going to change it. But of course, the next quilt will probably be a quilt where I need black thread, right? So I just cut that even, and then I'm just going to line these up and sew down this side. And I'm leaving it just like this because I want this solid strip without all the seams laying flat on this sewing machine. All right, so we just sewed the last bit of that strip on, and now I'm just going to trim it even with the, and now we need to press these open. I'm just going to press them back. I'm going to finger press them first, and then I'm going to hit it with the iron. I'm just going to finger press it back first, and then just set the iron on there. And I'm going to do that with all of them, and then I'm going to grab these strips one more time. And we are going to sew across the top of this here. What a cutie patootie. My goodness. I am just tickled by this. Who would have thought that a Christmas bauble block would be just as cute as it could be. It's going to turn into my little candy land quilt. So I'm looking at the pattern because now it's time to put these little guys together. And it's such a, I just love this. It's only got one border, which I like. A lot of their patterns have two borders, and you know, that's cool, but I like when there's just one. So when I'm looking at these rows, this whole row is red, this whole row is green, which is cool. I was thinking about doing every other one. However, we already have this block here, and that's just a lot. So I'm gonna do this pattern just as it says, with the row of red and the row of greens. I think that's just gonna be a little bit more pleasing to the eye, especially since we are actually going to be working with it this direction, and I'm going to be doing all kinds of crazy things to these little baubles. So let's get to it. Nothing special here. I'm just gonna one block, sew it, and then do the rows. Nothing interesting. There's nothing to line up except for this little intersection right here, which is normal. All right, it's not gonna take me long, hopefully, to do this. So you guys know that I will always tell you about any mistakes that I find in the pattern, which never happens, it's always me. I have cut this block a ½ inch too big, and so it is not lining up properly, and I'm annoyed because I think I'm gonna have to rip these two rows. Oh, not happy about it, trying to figure out ways around it, and it's such a cutie patootie that I want it to line up. I want it to actually line up. So two rows done, two rows that need to be ripped. I'm gonna rip these right here, and I'm gonna have to take a ½ inch off of either side in order for the math to come out properly. Luckily, I did this row by row and was gonna assemble them as opposed to just sewing all the rows together, because if that had happened, I wouldn't go back and correct it. So, yep. This measurement, be careful with it, because the width has a ½ it's not a ½ and I just cut it at a ½, trying to go too fast or whatever, who knows, watching TV or whatever. Oh, not happy. I meant to show you guys how I trim these up because it was so much fun. I love this ruler. I know I talk a lot of, I love Quilter Select so much, but Creative Grids absolutely has a place in my life. This ruler I use constantly. It's a 2.5 by 12.5 ruler, and what I like about this is that it has that sandpaper, their grippy stuff right there at that ½ inch, and it makes doing ½ inch work so helpful. And so I took my thing that was too large and I put it like this, and I just took off a ½ inch. I lined it up with the scratchy part, and then I just cut it. And then I flipped it around and did the exact same thing, making sure that the center line was even on either side so that I was centering it. And now I have blocks that are the same size. I'm so annoyed that I did that to myself. So annoyed. But whatever. Now these guys are going to nest appropriately. They are the same size. And the quilt is just too cute to mess it up. It's just too cute. So let's do it right. So I have gotten out the Econo transfer, cut it down to size. Then I sent it through my Cricut, and now I am weeding it. This stuff is extremely difficult to see, but not undoable. Like it's still doable, but even putting it on the light box, this is just not easy to see. So I'm doing a lot of twisting and turning here. But when you actually get it started, the weeding is easy work. It comes off like a dream. It's not difficult to weed at all. I didn't do test sizes. I just kind of mocked up this octagon on my computer, and the sizes of the swirls and decoration are a little smaller than I wanted them to be. I wanted them to go edge to edge. However, we are going to get what we get, and we're not going to throw a fit. And remember, this is going to swell some. So whatever happens, happens. It's still going to give the effect. I'm not really so worried about it because it's going to puff up. And that's just my test template right there. So I've got all these, and they all need to be weeded. So I'm just going around weeding all the shapes. Next time I do this, I'm probably going to put, well, no, because I need to do a different type of cut for it to cut out. So maybe I wouldn't set up the machine. I don't know. Depends on how many pieces I'm doing. But for this, I only needed 12 leaves and like wrapper bows and 12 swirls. So it wasn't that many. I'm excited about this. So I now own a Fancier Studios heat press, which is 12, I think it's 12 by 24. And I love it for attaching interfacing to cotton fabrics. And I've been playing with it as a heat press. And I used it on my quilt, and I got really good results. I'm going to show you guys when you use it the way that the Econo Puff says, with 300 degrees heat for 8 seconds. I think I did like 8 to 12 seconds. It comes out beautifully. It's got great puffy dimension. It looks really good. When you put it on a quilt that has been quilted, it is going to take on the design of the quilting, which gives it tons of texture, but it still gets puffy. I am going to show you guys that you can do it with the heat press too, because I was saying the heat press also, but this is a heat press too. You can do it with this also, because I know everybody's not going to want to go grab a heat press. I'm not sure if you can do it with your iron. I was about to test it. I've got my iron right here, and I will tell you in just a moment if you can. So I have my workstation all set up. I am going to go grab my quilt. I'm going to use this underneath. You can use just the towel if you want. I've just got this, so I'm going to use it. Gives it a little more cushion, but you could just use the towel. I do not have my cutting mat underneath because I'm getting ready to be using heat. And let's go grab the quilt. I am working on the two in the middle because my heat press couldn't reach that, because I have a clamshell, not the ones that drop down evenly. I forget the name of those, but mine is a clamshell, so I couldn't throw this through the back. And there are some advantages to having the one that clamps down. So now I'm just putting this, smoothing this out on top of that pad, and we're going to work on this one right here. This is such a pretty block. Okay, I'm going to go grab the applique. Hold on. Alright, so I'm just going to take these two pieces and just make sure it fits nicely. however I want it to go. That looks like it's cool. You don't want to have any of these overlapping. You don't want to have any of the extra overlapping. So I'm just gonna cut away the carrier sheet, not the actual applique, just cutting away some of it, because you don't want it overlapping. All right, put that guy like that. And we are going to, I think we're gonna lay this one like this. Yeah, that's cute. I don't have any overlapping or anything like that. I think I'm gonna give this just a really quick press for a few seconds, just to take out any moisture that might be in there. Now I'm going to place this down like so. That looks good. And then we're going to place this down like this. And then I'm going to grab this. I have it set to 2:95 in 10 seconds. And I'm just going to place it on top and hit the button and push. And when we lift, the carrier sheets are already off because they never stay on. I love this. It sinks in wherever there's quilting, and it bunches up and it gathers and it gives you tons of texture, and it's puffy. So funny. It's so interesting how this works. And again, if you want a smooth application, you would have to put this on the quilt prior to having it quilted and then quilt over it. But because it's got a little bit of puff to it, I don't think, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't really try it. All right, I'm gonna do the next one here, which is right in the center. I'm just gonna move that up a little bit. There we go. It's so cute. I'm putting that a bit askew, and I've decided I want this to sit how? It can sit like that, it can sit like this. This looks good. Nothing is overlapping.